I will tell you a love story. At least I will start with a love story. It started in 1999. At that time, I was a junior researcher at the Department for Economics at the Faculty of Law here in Ljubljana. I was studying economics. I was finishing my master's in economics. So I can say now I was in a happy relationship with economics, at least as a lawyer can be with economics. And then I felt need to brainstorm my perspective, to challenge my knowledge, to learn new ideas. And I decided to go to study abroad. I packed my things, I went all across the Atlantic, and there I fall in love. I fall in love with copyright law. You probably think now, what the hell were you thinking, woman? He's more than 300 years old. Look at yourself. You could do much better. Yeah, you may be right, but you know, it just happened. Now, when I look back, it happened for 3 reasons. First reason was that I was attracted to copyright mission. Copyright's mission is to give incentive to create, because of the noble goal to give encouragement to learn, to give encouragement to disseminate knowledge, to give encouragement to the society to make progress. Copyright gives incentive by giving creators exclusive rights to control uses of their work, like right to copy, right to distribute, right to make works available, right to change works. In addition to these material rights, copyright also gives moral rights to creators, like right to put your name on the work, or like to prohibit others to put their name on the work. And these others include also members of Slovenian parliament, though it seems they don't know that very well. But anyway, these rights are never absolute. These rights are always limited. They are limited in time, and they are limited by rights of others and interests of others. To make it more simply, like copying is not okay, but copying for quotation is okay. Copying is not okay, but copying for news reporting is okay. Copying for educational purposes is okay, for teaching, for research. And as well, copying to make criticism or parody is okay. Like in this case, the highest court of America said that this kind of copy is okay without asking permission first. And the same as in this case.
Walking down the street, pretty woman.
This is the original, and this is parody. It's done for commercial purposes, but okay. Another very important exception is, since always we were allowed to do private copying. And not just that, since always we were allowed to make a private copy, to change it or not to change it and share it with our friends. So, you see, striking the right balance between rights on one hand and exceptions on the other is very important. Incentives work well if we know where rights end and where exceptions begin. And to strike this balance, you need to be delicate. You need to be gentle. And I thought that copyright can do just that. So this powerful mission on one hand and this ability to be gentle on the other really attracted me. So this was the first reason. The second was, well, it was more a consequence of the time. At the time, the copyright was already in a huge battle with digital technologies and global communication technologies. So, just to make it clear, I don't like any kind of war, and I don't even like men in uniforms, as most women do. I just wanted to see my man in battle. I wanted to see how he will defend incentives, how he will strike the right balance. The third reason, well, it had to do that I was creative since ever. So, and copyright is all about creativity. So since the very beginning, we had many things in common. So it really seemed as a copyright is Mr. Right for me. So I broke up with economics, I dropped all courses that had anything to do with economics, like tax law, finance law, and I started to study copyright. But the honeymoon was over soon. He turned out to be Mr. Wrong. At the beginning, I realized that being a copyright lawyer, you don't need to be creative at all, at least not in the sense I was hoping to be creative. But this was at least problematic. Many more problems followed. First, I knew that he's old, but I didn't know that he's so damn conservative. Everybody changed, but he did not change at all. He still lives in this printing press time. He fears new technologies. He doesn't see the opportunity of these new technologies. So when I explained to him the new technologies enable new ways of creativity, new ways of disseminating works, new ways of making money, he says, yeah, you may be right. But for me, these same technologies are mainly just a perfect copying machine. A machine that's impossible to control. Technologies makes headaches to me, and hate makes headache to my best friends. And yes, best friends. These are a problem between me and copyright. These best friends all work in some way on another in copyright business. So you thought these guys can make fun? Not at all. They love to gather in private clubs, away from public, and their biggest fun is to draft legislation, how my copyright should look like. They like to draft free trade agreements, they like to draft national legislations, they like to compose like free strikes and you're out systems. Systems when you breach copyright for 3 times and you're cut off internet. And they dream that one day they will be able to enforce system when every copy will be controlled. These guys, they don't care about copyright balance and they don't care about our privacy as well. So when I learned what these guys and my copyright are plotting, I freaked out. I screamed, how can you allow that anybody is cut off internet in your name? How can you allow to put individuals to jail? How can you allow that what kids do is criminal? Don't you make any difference between ordinary citizens and real criminals anymore? You all call them pirates. Are you not embarrassed to intrude in our privacy? And then I cried. What happened to you? What happened to your mission? You forgot about your mission. The mission is to give the right incentive to create, not to control every damn copy. And then he said, what are you talking about? Show me. And I showed him this.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
And I see this on YouTube, Gangnam Style. So I think to myself, I do Eastern European style.
Let's go.
Oppan Kim Jong Style. Oppan Hyundai Style.
Mitt Romney style.
Oppa Gangnam Style.
Hero Bella style.
Oppa Krisa style. Krisa style.
And he said, oh, this is just for making fun. But I said, no, this song is copyright protected, but it produced many more songs. But if the original copyright owner would want to prohibit, it would be able to prohibit that because of you. And he said, this is all rubbish anyway, show me something serious. And I showed him this. This is a digital exhibition about Slovenians in First World War. It's for educational purposes, but it's illegal. It's illegal because it's put online. It's illegal because the curators didn't ask for permission to put this online. And you know, copyright doesn't care that it's for educational purposes, as it doesn't care that in this case they couldn't ask for permission because they have no idea who the author of these photographies is or who the copyright owner is. And I said, see, this is illegal. And he said, oh, honey, you're overreacting. It's still there, isn't it? And I said, yes, it's still there as it this one, and I showed him Brad Pitt just to make him jealous.
But wherever I go, there you are. My luck, my fate, my fortune. Chanel number 5.
My food, my fortune, my nuts. Nuts number 5.
But then he said, no reasonable judge would ever say that this is illegal. And I agreed. A reasonable judge would not say that this is illegal. But copyright and his friends doesn't rely on judicial system anymore. They rely on spies. On little machines that spy on us. On little machines that spy what we do or what we don't do. And when these little machines find that anybody is copying copyright-protected material, they just remove the material. These little guys can't make a difference between legal and illegal copying. So this happens. 3 years ago, Vuk Ćosić had a TEDx talk because he used 43 seconds of the copyright-protected material from the movie Wall Street. His talk is removed.
Point is, ladies
He
and
used
gentlemen,
43 seconds of this.
read, for lack of a better word,
I show this to
is
you,
good.
but
Read
in
is
my,
right.
in my talk online,
Read
this
works.
will not be shown, because otherwise my talk will be removed as well. You may say robots don't like Vuk Ćosić, but it happened again. It happened 2 years ago when Zach Crew used small portions of copyright-protected materials. Their talk is removed as well. Although these talks are not for commercial purposes, they are for educational purposes, but they are removed. So you see, copyright lost his mission. He forgot about his mission. He fights. He uses all this heavy artillery to stop piracy, but the same strategy, he prohibits legal uses, and nobody is happy. Not creators, not small users, not institutional users, not even industry. And the only solution that we get on table is ACTA, or it's SOPA and PIPA. Well, this is off the table. But more is coming. Or more is already there on the tables of some developed countries like Armenia, who is right now negotiating their trade agreements. So, copyright's totally lost it. And as a typical woman, I want to change my guy. So I lecture, I send letters, but this is not enough. So I was completely frustrated. But then I met this guy. I attended the lecture of Professor Jose Luis Cordeiro at the beginning of this year, and he lectured about the future. He lectured about how we will be immortal in 15, 20 years. That part I didn't like because I would rather be starting to be immortal 10 years ago. But anyway, he also talked about that in 15 years, super creatures will live here on Earth. Super robots with much better hard drives and with much better brains. And these super creatures will be nice. When he was talking, I had in mind these evil, I'll be back, Terminators. But he comforted me that no, these creatures will be nice, these creatures will be smart, and they will have feelings. So I realized this is the solution. These creatures will take care of our problem. If they will be so nice and super clever, we will allow them to do the lawmaking. And the first law that they will fix will be copyright. These robots, the software is very important for them. The software runs all over them. So they will intrinsically feel with copyright law. So they will fix it or they will abolish it. So, these rulers that today just dance with these robots, they will have no job. Because robots will take care of our problems. I hope you didn't believe this rubbish. Would you really wait for 10, 15 years and do nothing? Would you really rely on some other creatures to fix your problems? Because these are your problems as well, not just mine. We have to do something. We have to do something together. Speak up. Act. Demand that copyright changes, not just for the industry, but for you as well. Send letters to the members of parliament. If they don't respond, send letters again. If they don't respond, vote differently next time. But do something. Raise your voice. The future of copyright law, actually the future of every law, is in your hands. The future of copyright is you.